just a moment, our partners will be providing some details and recommendations for navigating our downtown as we prepare for the State of the Union, as well as we plan for the potential for disruptions to our roadway related to protest in the district. But before that, I want to assure that residents of the District of Columbia are doing everything that they can to keep safe. I have activated our Emergency Operations Center and directed district agencies to assign the personnel and resources needed for the safety and security of our city, residents, and businesses. I want to thank our public safety and justice agencies, including MPD and the Department of Homeland Security, the DC Fire and Emergency Medical Services Department, and the DC National Guard for their unwavering commitment to our work, to keep DC safe and protected. So with that, I will turn over the microphone to Chief Conti to talk about the district's preparations. Then we will hear from Director Murray of the United States Secret Service, followed by Chief Smith and Assistant Chief Gallagher. Chief Conti.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Robert Conti, Chief of Police here in Washington, D.C. In preparation for First Amendment activities that may occur in the National Capital Region and in the District of Columbia, MPD has increased staffing and enhanced our security posture around the city. We are closely coordinating and sharing information with our law enforcement partners across the country, as well as our federal partners. As you know, protests and demonstrations are not new to the residents and visitors of Washington, D.C. We regularly handle peaceful demonstrations and welcome all to the nation's capital to exercise their First Amendment rights. I should also note that citizens of our great city have a right to enjoy peace and tranquility within community and unobstructed freedom of movement. While there is a possibility that some may come to our city with the intent of going beyond what is allowed as a constitutional right and seek to engage in unlawful acts or acts of civil disobedience, it is my hope that guests to our city will abide by the laws of the District of Columbia. I want to be very clear that we are prepared to take swift law enforcement actions for violations of our local and federal laws if necessary. MPD has worked with our regional partners on a layered mitigation strategy and will continue to monitor, assess, and make adjustments with our partners as necessary. I invite the public to follow our social media for any road closures and traffic updates. Certainly on Twitter would be a good place to follow us there. In the event of traffic disruptions, I encourage you to think ahead about alternative modes of transportation. One of the great things about our city is there are oftentimes other modes of transportation if it becomes necessary, the subway, ride sharing, etc. Please consider those options. And as always, if you see something, please say something. We will be receiving calls on our line 202-727-9099, or you may text tips anonymously to us if there is something that does not look right at 50411. That number, again, report any suspicious activity. I want to thank our local and federal partners, both law enforcement and non-law enforcement, for their support and resources. I will now turn it over to Director Rodriguez from Homeland Security and the Emergency Management Agency for his update.
Thank you, Chief Conti. Thank you, Mayor Bowser. I first want to acknowledge our federal partners who are here. We have been engaged in the National Special Security Event planning for several months now. This is an event that we have nearly every year, and we appreciate the support of the Secret Service as the lead federal coordinating agency, and the U.S. Capitol Police, Park Police, FBI, and the DC National Guard. Also want to repeat sort of what the chief said. Since we've been looking at some of the First Amendment activities that might occur here in the district, we have been planning and preparing for this for over a month now. And we've been talking to our regional partners, our national partners across the country to make sure that we are learning what their experiences have been and how we apply lessons learned here in the district. And as we continue to gather more information, we will be proactive about sharing regular updates with the residents and businesses of the district. Also want to reinforce that Alert DC is our official system for real-time traffic and public safety information, so I encourage residents and visitors to sign up at alert.dc.gov. We also encourage you to follow the mayor, MPD, and HCMA on social media for more updates. Finally, keeping our city safe is certainly a collective effort that is not just city agencies, but also our federal partners. And we appreciate the continuing support of the federal government and the Secret Service even after the State of the Union to make sure that any requests we have of the federal government are coordinated and expedited in the current environment that we find ourselves in. So thank you very much. And with that, I'll turn it back to the mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Director Rodriguez. And as has been mentioned, the SO2 is a national special security event, and the United States Secret Service is the lead agency. I want to introduce Matthew Stoller, Special Agent in charge of the Washington Field Office.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Department of Homeland Security designated the State of the Union as a national special security event. This was done on a recurring basis since 2018. This year's event, as you all know, will be held tomorrow. And when an event is designated as an NSSC, the U.S. Secret Service assumes its mandated role as the lead federal agency for the design and implementation of the operational security plan. In conjunction with that, our partners at FEMA are charged with the lead for response and recovery operations, and our partners at the FBI are the leads for incident investigation and any counterterrorism planning. Secret Service carries out this responsibility by relying on a core strategy, working with our interagency partners at every level of involved law enforcement, public safety, and military entities. Our goal is to develop and implement with the numerous partnering agencies a seamless security plan that will create a safe and secure environment for our protectees, other dignitaries, event participants, and the general public. During the formation of the Secret Service's overall planning, each participating agency is tasked based on their jurisdiction and particular area of expertise. This is accomplished through, on one level, an executive steering committee, but that executive steering committee for this particular NSSC has identified 21 subcommittees, each focused on a specific area of the operational planning for this to prepare for any contingency that might present itself. Examples of the subcommittees are airspace security, credentialing, crisis management, et cetera. The expertise of each participating law enforcement, public safety, and military agency is critical to the success of the coordinated security plan. Knowledge and experience gained from the training and functional exercises conducted for this 2021 address to the joint session of Congress were applied during the current planning exercises to include a tabletop exercise with all of our interagency partners that was very successful last week. The preparation for any NSSC is a cooperative event. No one federal, state, or local agency alone can carry out the measures necessary to secure the event. Only through intense planning, communication, and training can an event of this magnitude be secured successfully. The Secret Service, Capitol Police, working with many other law enforcement and public safety partners, will make every effort to anticipate and minimize disruptions to the residents and visitors of the city throughout this event and beyond. And although we cannot discuss the means and methods in which we will do this, I assure you that we have a very robust security plan, and we're very confident in that. And again, the focus here shouldn't be on security specifically, although that's certainly a factor. It should be on the democratic process and the successful presentation of the State of the Union. Thank you.
Did I misintroduce you? Special Agent Murray? Is it Murray? Oh, okay, I got it right. I'm sorry. I misintroduced you at the beginning. Okay. And now I want to introduce the Assistant Chief from the United States Capitol Police, Sean Gallagher.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sean Gallagher, the Acting Assistant Chief for the United States Capitol Police, and I first want to thank Madam Mayor and your whole team for the invite to be here today. Our security plans for the State of the Union are robust, complex, and coordinated with all of our federal, state, and local partners. As you've heard from some of our partners here, the National Special Security Event brings forward that federal, state, local mandated partnership that we routinely have day in and day out, but it's enhanced, obviously, for the State of the Union. I do want to thank our participating law enforcement agencies, not only from the region, but we do have some external law enforcement agencies that are here supporting the security posture on the U.S. Capitol complex, as well as the efforts from the National Guard that are here to support the U.S. Capitol Police. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Chief Smith from the United States Park Police.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, colleagues. The U.S. Park Police is committed to the peaceful assembly and expression of First Amendment rights. We are working with our local and federal partners to ensure that safety protocols are in place for all events and other First Amendment activities. Through our cooperation with our agency partners, we are prepared to address any attempted disruptions in the district. We will not tolerate activities that threaten the safety and security of the public or park resources, and we will take appropriate law enforcement action if necessary. In addition, we have been in contact with our Virginia and Maryland state law enforcement partners, and we are coordinating with them on potential impacts of the larger transportation network throughout the region. As always, we are committed to the peaceful assembly and First Amendment expression of the First Amendment activities, but we will not tolerate any illegal activities. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All right, we'll take some questions. Questions, Chief, if you join me, please. Questions? Yes, Sam?
It seems like this is both the State of the Union and the trucking thing. Is that what we're talking about here?
That's correct. And we wanted to outline for you, Sam, as we have done before, especially when we have national special security events, what the organization is. And the United States Secret Service is, of course, responsible for the coordination of national special security events. Our team met with the Homeland Security Director for the United States last week, Secretary Mayorkas, where he also committed to making sure that our contacts in that United States, and in the special security event structure would be available to us locally if this trucking First Amendment demonstration persists throughout the week.
So is it thought that perhaps, I notice we see trucks and police cars at every exit off of the Southeast-Southwest Freeway, but we hear that this truck thing is out in Missouri somewhere.
Chief.
Thank you, Sam, and I appreciate that. Yes, that's a part of our enhanced security posture. We've had resources deployed throughout the city for the last week, anticipating any potential disruptions to our nation's capital. So yes, you see resources there. It's part of our layered mitigation strategy.
So Chief, is there some thought that there's something that's going to appear before this main body gets here from out west?
Well, Sam, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and we want to be in a posture of preparedness here in Washington, D.C. As you know, we handle thousands of these things, thousands of First Amendment assemblies in our city, and we oftentimes, while we expect the best, we always plan for the worst. So we have resources that are deployed, very much coordinating with all of our federal partners here to make sure that we have a safe State of the Union and peaceful First Amendment assembly, whatever day it shows up.
And finally, Chief, do you have any idea how long this is going to go on? Or are you sort of anticipating how long you got to be in this posture?
I don't plan on going anywhere, Sam. So we're going to keep the posture in place as long as it needs to be in place, and we'll see what happens. But the Metropolitan Police Department, our federal resources, are all committed to the safety and security of the nation's capital. Mark?
Will if the convoys materialize, will they be allowed to enter the District of Columbia And if so, will you exercise checkpoints at any place in the district for these convoys where you might conduct either dog searches or drug or alcohol tests for those who have CDL license?
I won't get into the specific strategies, Mark, that we intend to use, but that really kind of depends on what we're seeing.
But will they be allowed, if a convoy shows up with 100 or more trucks, will it be allowed to pass through into the District of Columbia?
People will be allowed into the District of Columbia.
And then perhaps for the Secret Service can answer this question. I'm wondering about other protests that might pop up. Obviously, will people protesting over the Ukraine invasion or over the SCOTUS nomination, will they be allowed to gather at the Capitol, outside the Capitol, for the State of the Union to peacefully protest?
So as part of our security posture, again, there will be certain areas that will be okay for the public, and there'll be certain areas that will be restricted. How close or how far away is part of the overall strategy, Mark. But that's probably the deepest that we'll be able to speak to that with respect to what our security posture is. We wouldn't go anything beyond what I just said.
Can we ask the Capitol Police when the fence will come down?
Yeah, Sean, I'll turn that over to you.
Knew that one was coming. So with regards to the fence, out of an abundance of caution and in conjunction with the request from the U.S. Secret Service, we have installed the temporary security fence around the U.S. Capitol. I say it's temporary. We are very confident in the security plan that is put forth for the State of the Union with all the partners standing up here and the other partners that are not able to be here today. Once we get through the State of the Union and have a successful event, a decision will be made soon after about the removal of that fence. Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon, Geneva Sands with CNN. You mentioned events abroad. Can you say at all whether the conflict in Ukraine has changed your thinking around the security plans, and if so, in what way? And then a second question as well. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said that he rejected a request for National Guard to come help with State of the Union security. Has that happened? And can you just talk about the National Guard efforts that are, the folks that are coming to help?
Sure.
So for the National Guard, I'm not sure about the Florida governor, but we will be using the D.C. National Guard for the Metropolitan Police Department. That was the mayor's request for that and her insistence, as a matter of fact, that we have the D.C. National Guard for D.C. streets. I can't speak to additional National Guard deployment, but that's what the city's posture is. Beyond that, you mentioned the activities happening abroad. Certainly those are things that we take into consideration as part of our security posture and planning. We've been doing the State of the Union for many, many years now. But again, always planning for the worst and hoping for the best in this situation. So that hasn't really changed operationally, the things that we intend to do. But the Metropolitan Police Department, Secret Service, and the rest of our federal partners here, we're fully prepared for that.
Chris, you want to add anything about intelligence?
Yep. And certainly the events abroad are not only just in the physical space, but also in the cyberspace. The Russians are always a threat, but I know that our dedicated professionals, Director Parker at OCTO, have been in touch with the Unified Coordination Group, which the U.S. Homeland Security Secretary has set up as the lead coordination group for any threats that are coming from abroad. So we continue to monitor that and make sure that we're staying safe here in the district.
Yes, Julie?
Can you tell us what First Amendment activities for tomorrow and for the weekend have received permits?
Should we start with Chief Smith?
Yes, ma'am. So we've received one request for a permit scheduled for Sylvan Theater on March 1st. That permit has been approved. Any other questions with regards to that, I would advise that you reach out to our National Park Service Permits Office, but a permit is approved for tomorrow.
And nothing for the weekend?
No, ma'am, not to my knowledge.
And Chief Conte, you had said this weekend that you would be looking out for disruptions to the District of Columbia. Can you tell us more about what disruptions you're concerned about?
Any and all.
Are there any specific concerns?
No, well, obviously, there's been a lot of reporting around convoy, and there could be counter protests, any of those things. So any and all potential disruptions to our city is really our planning posture that we are in here in the Metropolitan Police Department.
And in addition to the National Guard, are there other police from other jurisdictions or others coming in to help?
That is correct. We have invited some other entities in to the District of Columbia, just kind of as a standby posture in the event that we need additional resources. But we have invited some other agencies.
Can you specify who?
Right now, on the ground, I think we have some officers from Philadelphia that are here, and I think Baltimore officers have also been invited, but they may be in a standby posture. But right now, we have Philadelphia that's in the city as well.
Okay, Mark?
Could somebody tell us anything about road closures, what and when to expect road closures tomorrow?
Well, the road closures the road closures for U.S. Capitol Police, I think those are already out on the website for USCP. I don't want to speak for Sean, but I think some of that stuff is already out there. And I thought I saw someone with the actual streets or something in hand. But obviously, as you know, Mark, for years, as we get closer to the inauguration, to the actual time of it, depending on several security things at that point, we'll be making decisions about additional streets or roads that need to be closed based upon the information that we happen to have in on hand at that moment. So it could be a fluid situation between now and tomorrow evening this time. Things could change depending on intelligence.
Yes.
Beatrice Peterson, ABC News. I'm curious, how long are you expecting the National Guard to stay in the area?
I don't think that we are approved until what date? Until March 7th.
Okay, and I'm curious, is there any concerns about Russian disinformation when it comes to the trucker convoys? There's some saying that they may come tomorrow. There's a group that may come on the 5th and the 6th. Just wondering if you've got any indication.
Certainly there is the potential for Russian disinformation. This wouldn't be the first time the Russians have done that across the United States in the last several years. So we are working, as Chief Conte mentioned, with our national and regional partners to make sure we're distilling what is real and what is not, and sharing that information. But yes, that is certainly something that we continue to look at.
There's a question here, and then back to Julie. You'll have the last one.
For Park Police, you mentioned partnering with Maryland and Virginia to make sure there are no illegal activity out on the interstate. How can you assure residents, because there are convoys who mentioned blocking lanes, potentially just opening them up for emergency services. How can you assure to residents that you guys will be able to stay ahead of this, knowing there could be a major disruption?
Well, that's what we're doing right now. We're assuring residents that we've been planning, that we're going to use the best tools at our disposal to minimize disruption, and we will communicate frequently all that we know when we know it. So that's our commitment. Yes.
If a truck does come into the district and stop somewhere and refuse to move, what do you do?
We have some tools, Julie, that we expect to use, and let me ask the chief to talk about it.
So just, the first thing, obviously, we'd like to get voluntary compliance, right? I mean, if it's anyone, it doesn't have to be a trucker, anyone who's disrupting traffic or something like that. Ultimately, it could lead to an arrest. If we have someone who fails to obey the lawful directive of a officer, a traffic officer in this sense, hey, move your vehicle out of the roadway, that type of thing. That person ultimately could be arrested for that type of behavior and disruption.
And Mayor Bowser, were you supportive of the idea of putting the Capitol fence back up? And what message do you think that it sends to DC residents and to the American people to have the State of the Union delivered from inside this security perimeter?
Well, I don't know that I weighed in on it, but if the United States Capitol Police feel like it's necessary for the State of the Union, then I support it. What I have heavily weighed in on from the minutes and certainly hours after the January 6th insurrection was that a joint session of Congress, especially featuring the President of the United States, should be a national special security event and under the command and control of the United States Secret Service.
Will you take an off-topic question?
Yes.
All right. The CDC has changed their guidelines on how they describe the level of COVID risk. And I wonder whether those guidelines are something that you will adopt in the district and whether it will have any effect on whether children are still asked to wear masks in school.
We are reviewing all of that. DC Health has worked through the weekend to try to adjust to the new metrics that the CDC has put in place. I don't know that ours will be exactly the same, but largely the same as what the CDC has adjusted to, which focuses I'm not going to remember it all, so I won't go into it. But it's different than following daily cases and case rates. So we expect in the coming days to also adjust our way of reporting our experience with COVID in the district. We haven't made any further decisions about masks in schools. But I will remind everybody that the indoor mask mandate for the district expires tonight, except for, a long list of congregate facilities. All right. Thank you, everybody.